welcome to the first season of the Is the Planet Doomed podcast. This is a project produced by the students of a course with the same name in the Department of Geography at Colgate University. By unpacking some of the world's most pressing and complex problems, the episodes in this podcast help answer the question, well, are we doomed? In this episode, Anna Hart finds some glimmers of hope in Bangladesh's adaptations to climate change.
Bangladesh is a nation surrounded by water. Melting ice in the north feeds into the country's many rivers through a series of canals. The sea in the south rushes into the Bay of Bengal and flows through the country as well. Water is vital to the nation. Some people think that with climate change, all this water could be the country's undoing. And it's true. Melting ice does mean more flooding, and growing sea levels does mean parts of the low-lying country are being submerged. Flooding in many villages along the canals of Bangladesh leads to a lower quality of life. Crops account for 70% of the nation's GDP. Constant flooding damages crops as well as the farmers' ability to maintain them. Current sea level rise projections and temperature increase predictions have many worried about the fate of those living in Bangladesh. When homes are destroyed, when land is no longer farmable, where will these people go? The answer, many believe, is across borders. Professor Norman Myers of Oxford University predicts that this flooding will cause the displacement of 15 million people, or as he calls them, environmental refugees.
I use that term environmental refugee because we're talking about principally environmental factors that are saving us push, and these people are seeking refuge in countries or regions outside their traditional homelands.
If you think the phrase environmental refugee is seemingly practical and harmless, think again. Predicting the fate of millions of people turning into refugees only makes them helpless. It does not promote solutions to a problem. Instead, it paints a picture of tragedy. Reports describing Bangladesh as a sinking nation portray a doomsday narrative. There is another narrative to be told. If you look more closely, at a smaller scale, things aren't as bleak as they seem. While Bangladesh is often cited as climate change's ground zero, it's also a country coming up with innovative adaptations. What's all the more inspiring is that many of these solutions are coming from the grassroots. In the village of Hodkali, people lived underwater in flooding seasons. It was typical to boat to a friend's house. There's a central canal that the local villagers rely on for water and irrigation. Bangladesh's landscape is organized by its rivers and canals. The waterways prove vital to everyday life. The nation is also extremely vulnerable to flooding, specifically cyclones.
During high tide and the rainy season, this whole area would become waterlogged,
Explains a local woman from the village.
The canal overflowed every single time. This excess water was making our lives miserable.
With increased water levels comes an increased duty in the home. Women sometimes must walk long distances to retrieve water when local wells go under. With added pressures and immediate emergencies, children's educations are also often forgotten. Frustrated with her increased workload and lack of respect of the local men, Minoti Rani, a local villager, brought the community together to work on a solution.
I had an idea. I told my husband that it's been a long time since the canal was re-excavated. Why don't we dig out the canal by ourselves and use the soil to raise the plinth of our house? And he agreed to help me too. When we started, many other families also joined us. Within months, we'd re-excavated about 1 kilometer of this canal.
The community's organization impressed and attracted the attention of the local chairman, and soon the Hotkali people were working with higher government institutions that could provide further aid and assistance. Adaptive solutions based in community efforts are much more attractive to the government than the relocation of millions of people, and this is because these grassroots solutions are economically feasible. Creative solutions are not limited to the digging up of canals. A myriad of other solutions have been implemented across the nation to take preventative measures for flooding. One local solution is to raise the ground level of houses and wells. Further, some villages have begun to roof houses with certain mud and materials so that the walls are weighed down and able to withstand storms. Another effective solution to prevent flooding is to plant vetiver grass, a special type of grass known to prevent erosion. At a higher level, the Forest Department has undertaken an initiative to plant salient-resistant trees. Preventing flooding protects the nation's crops, and protecting the nation's crops directly preserves the locals' livelihoods. With the protection of crops and homes, there is no need for relocation. It is apparent that money should be spent by the government in these preventative strategies rather than in planning for relocation. In an effort to aid in local adaptive strategies, the UN formed the Poverty and Environment Initiative. The UN Poverty and Environment Initiative works to make sure economic growth is just and eco-friendly. They use sustainability and fairness indicators to approve projects and financially support adaptive solution projects in poor communities. The initiative also trains government officials to design sustainable solutions themselves. The organization is eager to find local projects to fund. Dr. Nurhan Nahar, a planning expert on the Poverty and Climate Mainstreaming Project, has a positive outlook on the direction of future funded projects.
More projects will come up that are more aware of the climate change impacts on the development and about sustainable environment along with poverty alleviation.
Higher level funding for grassroots solutions is the saving grace of Bangladesh. Local communities know their land, the daily issues they struggle with, and have brilliant minds to think of solutions. Funding allows for local communities to put into action their solutions and in turn preserve their crops, economy, and general livelihoods. The villagers of Hotkali are aware of the advantages of gaining government support.
The initiative was taken by the women of the village. Then the local government office got involved and finished re-excavating the rest of the canal. The farmers in this area are hugely benefiting from this work now. I'm personally, and on behalf of the Union Parishad, very thankful to the women who started this wonderful work.
That was a local man in the village. Innovation from the women has now made a large impact in the community's ability to farm, travel, and even educate their children. Local communities become empowered as they are able to make change and progress. With past support from the government, the villagers are hopeful for future plans.
Now that the canal is properly re-excavated, we need a sluice gate. We have already told the chairman and the Water Development Board about it. We believe we will also be able to get that in the future. One more thing, we don't have a cyclone shelter here. We definitely think that we will be able to make that happen.
Faithfully, the villagers put their efforts and ideas forth towards their government. This fluid relationship of innovation and aid promotes solutions that work at the local level. Adaptation is practical. Relocation is not. It is important that governments are able to recognize solutions that work and have real value. Bangladesh is prone to flooding. Climate change increases this risk. However, the nation doesn't need to produce environmental refugees. It strives to produce environmental thinkers, innovators, and believers. The people of Bangladesh are working together at all levels of organization. This is the narrative that is seldom told. For Colgate University, I'm Anna Hart.